Hi. First of all, I'd like to start by saying congratulations. If you're watching this video, that means you have recently signed your estate planning documents with us here at Phillips and Graham. And I want to start by saying thank you, and I'm also going to end by saying thank you. But I'll start by saying thank you for trusting us to help you with this process. This video is intended to provide you with an overview of the homework phase. And you've probably heard me use that term during the process where I've talked about how there's going to come a time where there's a homework phase, and that's where we are. And so today's the day where I get to hand out homework. Some clients find themselves overwhelmed by this, but the most don't. Most clients tell us this phase goes very smoothly, and that's our goal for you. We want to be a resource for you as you embark on this homework phase, and if there's something we can do to help you, do not hesitate to reach out during this phase of the planning. All right. So you've recently signed your documents and you come in, you sign all those documents, and you think, whew, I'm glad that's done. Everything's signed. I signed my will, I signed my trust, I'm all good to go. You're not. You're good from the standpoint of upon signing, the documents are effective. And so that's the good news. The documents are effective today. They're in effect right now when you're watching this video. But to get the most out of your plan, and to get the most value out of your plan and to show the most love you can to your children and the loved ones that are going to come along behind you, you've got to follow through on the homework phase. The homework phase is by far the biggest difference maker in terms of whether your loved ones are going to have an easy experience or a frustrating experience someday when you pass away. So give this homework phase the time and attention it deserves because it makes a huge difference. And again, we're going to try to support you and walk you through this process. So if you've recently signed your documents and you've picked them up, you have what we here at Phillips and Graham call our Revocable Living Trust Plan and a third-party discretionary trust. It's the exact plan I have for my own family. It's a very, very effective estate plan and a very effective estate plan model to have. So you've signed your documents. 1 to 2 weeks after signing your documents, we're going to call you and say those documents are ready to be picked up. If picking them up is a hardship for you, you can always contact us and we will ship them to you. When you get your binders, you're going to have 2 of our beautiful blue binders here. There's 2 binders for one reason. This binder, the one that's got my fancy Start Here sticker coming out of the top of it, that binder is all about the family. So in my family, this is the binder that's going to say everything we need to know about myself and Katie and our power of attorneys and our family trust and our living trust and all that stuff is in this binder. This other binder is our discretionary trust binder. And so in my family, that's for Megan. Megan's my daughter with Down syndrome, as I'm sure I've told you about. And so she gets her own binder because I want this to be a one-stop location for all information people might need about Megan someday. And you have homework today in both binders. And so the homework can really be split into 2 sections. There's the financial homework, and then there's the roadmap homework. So let's start with the roadmap homework. In Megan's binder, and whoever your loved one with a developmental disability is, they have their own binder. The first tab in this binder is going to be the third-party discretionary trust. And for the vast majority of our clients, that trust is the driving force for why you sought us out and why you're working with us. That is the trust that we've created where you can leave assets to your loved one in a way that's not going to interfere with their eligibility for any of their means-tested government benefits. So you've got the third-party discretionary trust is the first tab in this binder. The second tab in this binder, you're going to see a document that looks like this. And this is our roadmap for care and support. This is the document where we want you to make a comprehensive list of information people need to know about your loved one if something happens to you. Now, let's dive into this for a minute. This document, I cannot overstate the importance of this document. Now, as a parent and as a person who doesn't like doing a lot of this type of paperwork myself, believe it or not, it's easy to put it off. And I find a lot of parents do put it off. And you may watch this video and think, all right, we'll do it next weekend. I can't stress enough how important that roadmap is and how important it is that you give that roadmap the attention it deserves. That roadmap is your way of mapping out information that people need to know if something happens to you. So again, in my family, it's Megan. It's a roadmap for Megan. My wife and I are the world's foremost experts on Megan. And there's a lot of little secrets and nuances, whether it's things about her health care or things about her preferences or ways that we advocate for her that most people have no idea it occurs. That roadmap is critically important. And so don't ever underestimate the value of that roadmap. Although, admittedly, a lot of parents do. I always say, I wish I was allowed to videotape this conference room after parents pass away and we're meeting with that second in line support system, whether sometimes it's the person's sibling, sometimes it's the aunt or uncle, sometimes grandparents. Whoever's there, they always say the same thing. They're always overwhelmed because they're there for their loved one. They feel this sense of responsibility to do the best job they can, and they want as much information as they can get. And they get to this roadmap and they always say the same thing. They always say, this roadmap is great. I just wish it was 40 pages longer. And so when you're completing this roadmap, my request of you is fill this out with all the information that somebody would need to know about your loved one with a developmental disability if you die this year. I want you to really take your time and I want you to really do a good job. And if you do a really good job this first year, we're going to remind you every year as we invite you to review Zoom. And again, that review Zoom is you and lots of other clients joining a Zoom where I go over all this. We're going to invite you to that once a year. We're going to remind you in that review Zoom to update your roadmap. And if you've done a really comprehensive job the first year, it's really easy to update it year to year. So my wife and I, we update ours every year. And in full disclosure, if you looked in my daughter's binder in the second tab where it says roadmap, there's one page. And the one page in there says, Megan has a detailed roadmap. Here's where it's saved. Here's how you get to it. And that's because I don't want to write in the answers, and I never want my clients to write in the answers. I want you to type it in and create this as an electronic document and then save it so that you can build upon it and edit it every year. And so Megan's roadmap is saved. And if you go to the place where Megan's roadmap is saved, you'd see Megan Roadmap 2015, Megan Roadmap 2016, Megan Roadmap 2017. When my wife and I are gone, if the successor trustee wanted to, they could come in and read all of those and see year to year what things are changing. And what did the school do this year that's great? What did the school do this year that's not great? What's a camp that's good for Megan? What's a camp that's bad for Megan? What's something OOD wanted us to try that ended up being terrible? What's something OOD wanted us to try that ended up being great? You as the parents have all the trade secrets on your loved ones with the developmental disability. You need to share some of those trade secrets so that information is available when you're no longer here. So write that down. Our roadmap is about a 20-page questionnaire, and there's no way we're going to create a 20-page questionnaire that applies equally to every person with a developmental disability. So we have put information that we think is relevant in there. Sometimes clients work on the roadmap and they fill it out and they give us feedback that this document is awesome. We're so glad it exists. Other times clients have said, it's good, but it doesn't quite hit the mark with everything I think people would need to know about my loved one. That is totally fine. Make this roadmap whatever you think it needs to be for your loved one. Open up Microsoft Word, make your own document, and just pull from our document what you think they need to know. Fill this out in whatever ways you think are most helpful, but leave behind as much information as possible. We're going to be sending you examples of a roadmap, and the example of a roadmap is just that, a very, very basic example of a roadmap. And it's just intended to help get you thinking and help you in any way we can with completing that roadmap. I cannot overstate the importance of the roadmap. Now, one of the ways the roadmap is important is in the trust I created for Megan. I've created this trust, or as I like to refer to it, this basket for Megan. I can put whatever assets I want into that basket. My assets are going to go into that basket when I pass away. But I can't tell the trustee what to do with the assets in that basket. You've probably heard me use this example before, and it's repetitive on purpose. Megan loves ice cream. That kid would eat ice cream 3 meals a day, 365 days a year if we would let her. So I might say to my wife, hey, you know what? Every year the trustee should buy Megan an ice cream cake for her birthday and tell her it's from mom and dad. I cannot put that in her trust. If I do, I jeopardize the entire thing. There's nothing in Megan's trust that tells the trustee they have to spend money in any specific way. That's why it's called a discretionary trust. But in the roadmap, there are questions in there where it says, hey, trustee, I'm not allowed to tell you how to spend the money that's in that trust. But if I were allowed to tell you how to spend the money in that trust, this is what I would be telling you to do with it. Trustees love getting that information. It makes their life a lot easier and it makes Megan's life a lot better. So take some time, fill that information out with as much detail as you can. Now, while we're talking about the discretionary trust, while you're working on that roadmap and completing it, we do encourage clients to send a copy back to us, but you certainly don't have to. Some clients say there's a lot of personal information on there. They don't want to share it. That's totally fine. I respect that. Other clients would like feedback from us on if we think it covers everything it should cover. We're happy to provide that feedback, but we leave that to your discretion for how involved you want us to be in the actual creation of the roadmap. So if you want my feedback, email it to me. I'm happy to give it to you. If you finish it and you think, yeah, I'd feel a little uneasy if Derek read all this because it got so much personal information in there. Totally fine. I get that. Just make sure that roadmap is where it can easily be found by the trustee when something happens to you. While you're working on the roadmap, we're going to be sending copies of this discretionary trust to the government agencies involved. If your loved one has Medicaid, we'll be sending it to Jobs and Family Services. They will take their very sweet time, but several months after we send it to them, they should, in most counties, not all, in most counties, they'll send us a letter back saying they reviewed the trust and it is, in fact, an exempt resource. All right, so that's half of the roadmap. I'm sorry, that's half the homework, and that's the roadmap side, where we want you to work on that detailed roadmap for your loved one with a developmental disability. The other half of the roadmap is spelled out in your other binder. We'll call this the family binder. It's the binder that's got the sticky or the Start Here sticker coming out of the top of it. So in your family binder, we want you to start by going to the tab to where there is the Start Here sticker. And when you go to that tab, you're going to see a couple of different things. The first thing you're going to see is a copy of this, and this is our funding checklist. This document is really important. This document is where you write down information that people need to have if something happens to you. Now, let's talk about what this document is not. This document is asking you to make a list of all your financial accounts. It's not asking you for account balances. It's not asking you for account numbers. The honest truth is your family members, they don't need that information for this plan to be effective. Your account balances will change all the time, and they don't even really need your account numbers. But what they do need is a comprehensive list of where you have assets. So my wife and I bank at US Bank. Somebody needs to know that. I don't think my kids know that. They're still teenagers and middle schoolers. And so somebody needs to know, hey, if something happens to Derek and Katie, we got to go to US Bank. And if they walk into US Bank and say, hey, here, we've got the death certificates for Derek and Katie. It's our understanding they had bank accounts here. If I've done all the homework we're about to talk about correctly, that will start a domino effect where the money at US Bank gets turned over to the right people to carry out the terms of our trust and to make our plan really come alive for the benefit of our kids. So this is what we call the funding phase. In your plan, just like mine, you have two trust agreements. You have the discretionary trust that you've set up for your loved one with a developmental disability. And then you have your living trust. And again, that's in the family binder. So the first tab in the family binder is going to be your living trust. So in my family, that's the Graham Family Living Trust or the Graham Living Trust. That trust is set up by my wife and I. And basically the goal of our plan is that if something happens to one of us, we want everything going to the surviving spouse in a way that does not go through probate court. If something happens to both of us, that's when we want everything we own to funnel down into that Graham Family Living Trust or that Graham Living Trust, whatever the name is on your trust. We want that because then that trust is going to receive all of our assets and it'll be managed by the trustee we've designated, which because of the age of our kids, our trustee is one of the aunts or uncles of our kids. And so they will take control of our assets and then they're going to divide it into three different shares. Share for Ruby and Leah, and those are my younger two kids, and their share will be administered to them through this trust. And then the share for Megan leaves and goes over into her discretionary trust. Now, the critical part of your homework and the homework we're assigning to you today is to make sure everything is lined up to go into this trust. And so when you go to that Start Here sticker, you'll first see the funding checklist, which is really important. We want you to make that list of all of your accounts. And then over on this side, there's the shaded area. This is where for each of those accounts, we want you to make sure you do your homework. So like on mine, I might put US Bank checking account. Put US Bank here, checking. And then over here's the shaded part. That's where I'm going to put the date that I made sure that that U.S. Bank checking account lists my Grand Family Living Trust as a payable on death beneficiary after my wife and I pass away. Now, you might think, well, how do I really do this? How do I know exactly what to do? Behind your funding checklist in the clear sleeve are a series of letters. And these are our funding letters. And I'm going to let you zoom in on these a little bit. It just has my wife and I's name on it, so we're not sharing any client secrets here. But these funding letters lay out how people address the different types of accounts they might have. So this funding letter is for checking and savings accounts. And so this letter tells you what it is we want you to do with a checking and savings account to make sure it goes into the Graham Family Living Trust. This funding letter is for investment accounts. It lays out for investment accounts. Here's the action you need to take. Then there's one for retirement accounts, your IRA, your 401k. What do we need to do? For those, we want to make sure you name your spouse as the primary beneficiary, the trust as the contingent beneficiary. So make sure you read these letters, and everything you might think of are hopefully included in there. So take some time, read through those. That's critically important. But they pretty much all say the same thing. Make sure your spouse is either a co-owner, a joint account owner, or the primary beneficiary. And then make sure we update the contingent beneficiary so that it's not your kids. You're not going to name your kids as a beneficiary. You're going to name the Graham Family Living Trust as the contingent beneficiary. Now, I can't make one video that applies equally to every client. So if you're in a family where there's maybe a blended marriage or other circumstances, it's extra important you read through your letters to see what are the unique terms and instructions for you. These instructions, in this video is kind of geared towards the middle of the bell curve, but there's always outliers. And maybe your plan had special instructions for a family member that doesn't fit our typical narrative or doesn't match my family or something of that nature. So make sure you look at those instructions and you're following those so that your plan is set up correctly and you get the most value out of your plan. But all of your life insurance, all of your retirement accounts, all of your investment accounts, you have to update the beneficiaries on all of those. And you have to do it. The bank will not let me change or modify your beneficiary. So it's really important that you take some time and carry through this homework to completion. Make sure you cross the finish line by getting all this homework done. We're going to follow up with you, and we're here to provide technical support. If at any point in this process you find yourself frustrated, confused, lost in terms of what you're supposed to do, those should always be signals that you're going to stop and shoot me an email and let us help you get back on track. We are happy to help you any way we can in this part of the process. Your real estate should already be taken care of. Your stuff, your couch, your TV, that's already taken care of it. Those are taken care of because we would have done that for you. Most of our clients sign a transfer on death or some kind of deed as part of the planning process that takes care of those assets. So your focus should be on financial accounts, bank accounts, retirement, life insurance. And then the section that's always a headache for people is motor vehicles. So in that same plastic sleeve where you have your funding instructions, there's also a transfer on death form for motor vehicles. Motor vehicles, a surviving spouse can inherit an unlimited number of motor vehicles with a combined value of up to $65,000 when one spouse dies. It's also important, though, that for motor vehicles that if you're above and beyond that, or if you're a widow or widower and you don't have a surviving spouse, make sure you fill out that transfer on death form for your motor vehicles. You're going to take that to the clerk of court's title office. Take with you, first of all, take your original automobile title as well as that transfer on death form that's in your binder. They're going to charge you fees anywhere from $30 to $35 to $50, depending on what's being transferred and updated. And they'll take your title and then they'll reissue you a new title that has that transfer on death designation on it. This stuff can be a little bit of a headache, but I can promise you it is so worth it to your loved ones. The work then that you invest and the time you invest now to complete these items will pay off big time when you're deceased in terms of making life easier for your loved ones after you're gone. All right, there's a few other areas of homework that are really important. There's tabs in your binder called personal information. This is where we want you to write down information about yourself that your loved ones may not have readily available to them. Do your kids know who your insurance agent is? Do your kids know who prepares your taxes? Do your kids know where you keep your passwords? All of this is really important information and it needs to be written down. It used to be 25 years ago, somebody dies, you read their mail, you know everything about them. No longer true. You've got to write stuff down. So make sure we have a comprehensive list of information people would need to know. Think about yourself through the lens of your loved ones. If you pass away, you know what information are they going to know or need to know. If you've got that giant safe in the basement, but you're the only one on the planet that has the combination to open that safe, that's a problem. So make sure you write that information down so your loved ones can get to it and have that relevant information at the time they need it most. There's also a tab in the back called Memorial Instructions. This is where, again, nobody really likes to think about this stuff, but you can really save a lot of stress and headache, both for possibly yourself and your heirs, by sitting down and thinking through, do you want to be buried, cremated? What type of service do you want? What type of service do you not want? Think through all these details. It never ceases to amaze me how often I meet with individuals who have never really had that conversation with their loved ones. And it leaves the loved ones in the bad predicament of now they're grieving and having to make all these decisions. And so the more information you write down, the more love you're expressing to them by taking hard decisions off their plate in a time where they're going to be grieving your loss. So, and if it's a situation with your spouse, you might be saving yourself those headaches too. If it's your spouse that passes away and now you're the one that has to make those hard decisions. Not fun conversations to have, but they are oh so important conversations to have, and we want you to have them as part of this homework process. All right, the last thing I want to cover, and this is probably the most important part to me that you hear, and that is I want to say thank you. I love what I do for a living. I love who I work with. I love who I work for, and I love the families I get to meet and work with. And I just want to say thank you for trusting Phillips and Graham to be a part of this process. We are not finished with you. We're still going to be here to support you through this homework phase. We're going to have follow-up phone calls or maybe Zoom meetings or whatever it takes to get you across the finish line. But we don't want you to hesitate to reach out if we can be a resource to you during this phase. And I do want to leave you with just a huge expression of gratitude that I appreciate you trusting us to help you support your loved ones and plan for the future. So thank you, and do not hesitate to be in touch if we can help you in any part of this homework phase. Have a great day.